To Israel overnight, we watched as these missiles soared through the skies of this country.
He also claimed to have destroyed 3 drones in the east of Riyadh.
The war in West Asia has entered its 7th day. Israeli forces announced the next phase in the
IRGC had come in to help build up their hierarchy.
For thousands of years, the Bible has had a lot to say about Israel. Scholars estimate there are more than 300 prophecies that relate directly to this people, and what's really amazing is that many of them seem to have come true through history. Right now, Israel is facing an extremely tense conflict with Iran, and it's making the whole world very worried. In the middle of all this chaos, one question has a lot of people both curious and a little afraid. Israel, a small country that's always surrounded by conflict. Can it really stand strong and in the end win, like the Bible once predicted? Today, we're going to take a closer look at the sacred picture the Bible paints so we can find the real answer about what happens to Israel in this war. But first, if you feel led, please leave a prayer in the comments below as your way of showing faith in the Lord. And now, so you don't have to wait any longer, let's get right into it. The Bible's story of Israel, from beginnings to exile. Right from the opening pages of the Bible, a remarkable story unfolds, not just as history, but as a promise that echoes through thousands of years. When we read those ancient words again, we don't just see a nation coming into being, we also sense God's hand quietly guiding everything. And right in the middle of those sacred promises, one thing stands out clear. It all seems to have been seen ahead of time. The story starts with an ordinary man living in the ancient Middle East. But then, in Genesis 12:1-3, an unexpected call comes. The Bible records, "The Lord said to Abram, 'Go from your country, your people, and your father's household to the land I will show you. I will make you into a great nation, and I will bless you, and all peoples on earth will be blessed through you.'" That promise wasn't just for one man. It marked the beginning of an entire people. At that point, Abraham had no army, no kingdom, not even a son to carry on the family line. Yet the Bible describes a promise so big, it's almost hard to believe. His descendants would be as numerous as the stars in the sky and the sand on the seashore. From one small family, God declared he would create a special nation, one whose history would be tied to his plan for the whole world. Centuries later, that promise grew even bigger. In 2 Samuel 7:12-16, God spoke to King David about a deeper, everlasting covenant. The Bible says, "Your house and your kingdom will endure forever before me. Your throne will be established forever." This wasn't just a guarantee for one royal line. It was a firm statement that Israel would never disappear from the flow of history. But when we look back at what actually happened, things seem to go in the completely opposite direction. After the glorious days of King David and Solomon, the kingdom split in two, Israel in the north and Judah in the south. Conflicts, moral decay, and bad political choices made the nation weaker and weaker against the rising empires around them. Then the unthinkable happened. In 586 BC, the Babylonian army marched into Jerusalem. The city's great walls came crashing down, the holy temple was burned to the ground, and the people were carried off into exile. The prophets had warned about this disaster long before. In Jeremiah 25-11, the Bible records the prophecy, "This whole country will become a desolate wasteland, and these nations will serve the king of Babylon for 70 years. Picture the scene. Jerusalem, once the spiritual heart of the whole nation, swallowed up in fire and smoke. Streets that used to ring with songs now lay empty and ruined. Families were dragged far from home, carrying deep pain and one huge question: had God's promise come to an end? But the Bible says the opposite. In Jeremiah 29-10, right in the darkness, a new promise is given. When 70 years are completed for Babylon, I will come to you and fulfill my good promise to bring you back to this place. Even as the city fell and the people were scattered, God made it clear the story wasn't over. When you look at ancient history, what happened with Israel is truly unusual. Mighty nations like Assyria and Babylon eventually vanished from the map. Empires that once terrified the world are now just ruins buried under desert sand. But Israel is different. Conquered, scattered, exiled, yet this people has kept on existing through century after century. That's what amazes so many scholars. A small nation that lost its land time and again, lost its cities, even lost its kingdom, yet it didn't fade away like other ancient civilizations. When people reread those old prophecies, they start to realize something worth thinking about. Israel's history doesn't look like a random string of events. It feels more like a story that was written out long beforehand. In Isaiah 46 to 9:10, the Bible records God's words. I am God, and there is no other. I make known the end from the beginning. From ancient times, what is still to come. Those words are like a reminder that history is never outside his sight. And if the prophecies about Israel's beginnings, its downfall, and its exile really happened just as the Bible describes, then a big question starts to come up. If the past was seen ahead of time, could the next parts of the story also be already written? Because after that exile period, the Bible talks about things much greater, events still to come in Israel's future and in the future of the whole world. Things happening in Israel show Bible prophecies coming true from the past right up to today. There are words in the Bible that aren't just for reading, they're for watching them slowly come true in human history. When the prophets wrote those words down, a lot of folks back then probably thought they sounded way too far-fetched, maybe even impossible. But over the centuries, the things written on those old scrolls seem to be stepping off the pages and showing up right here in the world we're living in. After the time of exile, one of the most amazing prophecies was about the people of Israel coming back from every corner of the world. In Isaiah 11:12, the Bible foretold this a long time ago. In that day, the Lord will reach out his hand a second time to reclaim the remnant that is left of his people. He will raise a banner for the nations and gather the exiles of Israel. He will assemble the scattered people of Judah from the four quarters of the earth. This wasn't talking about a small return. It was about gathering from far-off lands everywhere. History records part of this coming true when the Jews came back from Babylon after the exile. But what really shocks a lot of people happened thousands of years later. After the horror of the Holocaust in World War II, millions of Jews from Europe, the Middle East, and other places started heading back to their ancient homeland. In 1948, the nation of Israel was officially born. A people scattered for almost 2,000 years suddenly reappeared on the world map. For many who study the Bible, this felt like seeing an ancient prophecy come alive. A nation spread across the globe, keeping its identity through centuries, then returning to the very same land the Bible talked about long before. When you look at those old prophetic lines and compare them to modern history, you start to feel something really special. It seems like history is following a path laid out ahead of time. But Israel's story didn't stop with just coming home. Only a few decades after it was founded, this young country faced wars that could have wiped it off the map. In 1967, a war broke out that later got called the Six-Day War. Israel was up against several surrounding nations all at once, and many experts at the time figured they had little chance to survive. Yet the outcome stunned the whole world. In just 6 days, Israel not only held its ground, but gained key strategic areas. For a lot of people who believe the Bible, that surprising victory brought to mind an old prophecy. In Amos 9:14-15, it says, I will bring my people Israel back from captivity. They will plant vineyards and drink their wine. I will plant Israel in their own land, never again to be uprooted from the land I have given them. That prophecy makes one thing very clear. The people of Israel will return to their land and won't be easily removed from it anymore. Looking at recent history, many folks start wondering if those unexpected wins were just smart military moves, or if something deeper was going on behind it all. Another part of prophecy that gets people thinking is how the land of Israel itself has changed. In the past, many explorers described it as barren, with lots of desert and rocky ground. But today, Israel is one of the world's top centers for high-tech farming and scientific innovation. That reminds a lot of people of the old prophecies about the land coming back to life. In Isaiah 35:1, the Bible says, "The desert and the parched land will be glad. The wilderness will rejoice and blossom like the crocus." The picture of a desert blooming was once seen as a spiritual symbol, but now it's something people can actually see with their own eyes. Along with that, there's another strong promise in Jeremiah 31-35-36. The Bible says, "If those laws ever fail, then the descendants of Israel will stop being a nation before me forever." Those words sound like a guarantee that Israel's existence is tied to the very order of the universe. Of course, not everyone sees it this way. Some critics say these historical events are just coincidences or the result of politics and society. They point out that people tend to find meaning in things after they've already happened. But when so many different prophecies written thousands of years ago seem to line up with major events in history, the question gets harder to ignore. Is it all just chance? Or are those ancient pages really reflecting a bigger plan that people are only slowly coming to understand over time? When you think about it, many believe Israel's history isn't just the story of one nation. It's a reminder that God is still at work in this world. And if the prophecies that came true in the past are real, then trusting in Him isn't just a spiritual choice. It could be the way to salvation for all humanity. But here's what's really striking. The Bible doesn't just talk about what has already happened. The next pages of prophecy describe even bigger events still waiting ahead, and once again, Israel is right at the center of that story. Israel has victory in the war with Iran. In the Bible, what does the victory the Bible talks about really mean? Is it armies marching across battlefields and maps changing after every fight? Or is there something deeper, more mysterious, and way beyond what people usually think about winning and losing, hidden behind those ancient prophecies? When we read those words carefully, we start to see a picture full of tension, but also carrying a strange kind of hope. In many prophecies, the Bible describes a world where nations argue, fight, and distrust each other. The tensions around the land of Israel always seem to be right at the center of history's big changes. But what stands out is that the prophets don't just talk about war, they also talk about the end of war. In Isaiah 2-4, we get a completely different picture. He will judge between the nations and settle disputes for many peoples. They will beat their swords into plowshares and their spears into pruning hooks. Nation will not take up sword against nation, nor will they train for war anymore. That picture feels almost the opposite of what we see in the world today, but that very contrast makes the prophecy stand out. It shows that the final victory isn't one nation beating another, it's when human violence finally stops. In that prophetic picture, Israel isn't just a country caught in conflicts, it's part of a bigger story about the final reconciliation between all nations. The prophecies go even further. In Revelation 21:18-21, the Bible describes a new city that appears after all the ups and downs of history. The wall was made of jasper. The city was pure gold, as clear as glass. The 12 gates were 12 pearls, each gate made of a single pearl. The great street of the city was of gold, as pure as transparent glass. This isn't an ordinary city. It's a symbol of a completely renewed world. In that mysterious picture, Jerusalem is no longer just a spot on a political map. It becomes a symbol of restoration, where people and God are fully reconciled. When we think about that image, we start to see that the victory the Bible talks about isn't victory through weapons, it's victory through transformation. Another key part of the prophetic picture comes in Romans 11. There, the Apostle Paul uses the image of an olive tree to explain the relationship between Israel and other nations. In Romans 11:17, it says, "If some of the branches have been broken off, and you, though a wild olive shoot, have been grafted in among the others, and now share in the nourishing sap from the olive root." That picture shows salvation isn't just for one people, it reaches out to all humanity. This gives us a different way to look at what winning means. When Israel is restored in God's plan, that blessing doesn't stop with them. It spreads to other nations too. In other words, true victory isn't about excluding others. It's about expanding grace. When we think about this, we can see that Israel's story touches the story of each one of us too. Still, these prophecies raise an important moral question. If the Bible talks about conflicts and big upheavals around Israel, does that mean war is being encouraged? Many Bible scholars say no. The Bible describes war as a result of human sin, when greed, jealousy, and power push aside higher values. That's why so many parts of the New Testament stress love and reconciliation. Jesus' teachings keep reminding people that God's way isn't violence, it's forgiveness and changing hearts. The prophecies about conflict aren't there to promote war, they're warnings about the consequences people can bring on themselves. When we look at the whole prophetic picture, one thing becomes pretty clear. The ups and downs of history, from conflict and division to hopes for peace, aren't outside God's view. The Bible repeats that He knows what's coming, and history is moving toward an end He has set. That doesn't mean people are forced into a fixed fate. Instead, the Bible shows God constantly warning and calling humanity to change before big consequences hit. But when people keep getting caught up in ambition, violence, and hatred, those warnings become clearer and clearer as history unfolds. So, when we talk about Israel's victory in the Bible, it's probably not just about one nation standing strong through conflicts. It's about a much bigger plan, a plan where every upheaval in the world is still under God's control. And if those prophecies describe the past correctly and are still mirroring what's happening now, then maybe the most amazing part of the story is still ahead. Because according to the Bible, the biggest events involving Israel and the whole world are still waiting in the future. Israel today, in the middle of a Middle East storm. In early March 2026, the Middle East is entering one of its most tense periods in many years. Exchanges of attacks, strong statements from major powers, and the heavy atmosphere of war across the region are making many people feel that the future is more uncertain than ever. If you were standing in Tel Aviv at this moment, you would not only hear the sound of air raid sirens, you would also feel the fast, urgent heartbeat of a crisis that is spreading. Israel, with military support from the United States, has carried out major strikes on military targets inside Iran, including strategic infrastructure, air defense systems, and missile storage sites. The operation has been called Roaring Lion by Israeli officials. According to Fox News, more than 11 large airstrike waves hit areas around Tehran and several important military bases, destroying a large part of the defense system and hundreds of ballistic missile launchers. Iran responded almost immediately. Large numbers of missiles and drones were launched toward Israel, targeting Tel Aviv, Jerusalem, and several central areas. The Iron Dome defense system intercepted most of the attacks, but some debris still fell into the cities, causing fires, explosions, and casualties. Images spreading across social media show neighborhoods covered in smoke and flames, ambulances moving through the streets all night, and civilians living under constant alert. The conflict did not stop with Iran. The battlefield quickly expanded to the north. Hezbollah, the Iran-backed armed group in Lebanon, joined the fighting by launching rockets and drones toward northern Israel. This forced the Israeli military to widen its campaign into Lebanon, carrying out airstrikes in Beirut and deploying ground forces in southern Lebanon. Hundreds of thousands of civilians have been forced to evacuate, creating a growing humanitarian crisis. These fast-moving events have reminded many people of ancient warnings in the Bible about troubled times surrounding Israel. In Ezekiel 38-16, the prophecy says, "You will come up against my people Israel in the latter days. I will bring you against my land, so the nations may know me." For many who believe the Bible, these ancient words seem to reflect part of the picture we see today. Meanwhile, inside Israel itself, daily life is changing quickly. Several northern areas have ordered local evacuations, schools have moved to online learning, and defense systems remain on constant alert. Ben Gurion Airport has reopened but with limited flights, while many international routes have been canceled because of security concerns. Airspace across the Middle East has become extremely tense. Strategic shipping routes are also being affected as the Strait of Hormuz is partly blocked, shaking oil prices and global markets. Oil tankers have had to change their routes, while airlines continue updating security conditions hour by hour. Amid this tense atmosphere, Israeli military leaders say they still hold a strategic advantage on the battlefield. The Israeli army claims it has disabled much of Iran's missile capability and shot down several drones during rare air battles. This reminds some people of the words in Amos 9:15, "I will plant them in their land, and they shall never again be uprooted from the land I have given them." However, the cost of the war is already very heavy. Hundreds of people have died in Lebanon, dozens have been killed in Israel, and hundreds of thousands have been forced to leave their homes. Gaza has also been affected indirectly, as several humanitarian aid routes have been interrupted for security reasons. International organizations warn that if the conflict continues to grow, the entire region could fall into a much larger war. In moments like these, many people begin to wonder whether these events are simply another chapter in the long and troubled history of the Middle East, or whether they are moving closer to the things prophets spoke about thousands of years ago. In Matthew 24-6, the Bible says, "You will hear of wars and rumors of wars, but the end is not yet." Those words make the present situation feel both worrying and deeply thought-provoking, because if today's turmoil is only part of a larger movement in history, then perhaps the most decisive events for Israel, and even for the whole world, may still lie ahead. And that is why this story cannot end here. Prophecies about the future. What challenges will Israel face? The wars around Israel might just be the start of something much bigger. When you look at those old prophecies, the picture isn't just about political fights. It's a chain of huge upheavals that will cover the whole world. If what's going on today is only the beginning, then what comes next in this story? Have you ever wondered if those ancient prophecies are starting to come true? The Bible describes a large-scale attack on Israel from a powerful alliance up north. That image comes through clearly in the book of Ezekiel, where the prophet talks about a storm of war arriving suddenly like clouds covering the land. Ezekiel 38-9 says, "You will advance like a storm. You will be like a cloud covering the land, you and all your troops and many peoples with you." For years, Bible students have asked, who is that alliance? And why does Israel end up at the center of such a massive showdown? What gets a lot of attention is that the nations named in the prophecy often line up with places that exist today around the Middle East and north of Israel. Some folks think modern alliances between big powers and countries in the area might echo parts of that old picture. With geopolitical tensions rising all the time, more people are wondering if the world is getting closer to what Ezekiel described. But that war isn't the only piece of the prophetic picture. The Bible also talks about a time of trouble like nothing ever seen in human history. Daniel 12:1 puts it strongly. There will be a time of distress, such as has not happened from the beginning of nations until then. This is what many call the Great Tribulation, a period of major upheaval where nations, leaders, and people everywhere face real testing. Jesus spoke about this time too, warning about the signs that would lead up to the climax. Matthew 24-21 says, "For then there will be great tribulation, such as has not been from the beginning of the world until now, no, and never will be." In that scene, Israel remains right at the center of global events, like a prophetic clock ticking steadily. It's not only wars and chaos. The Bible warns about a figure who will rise in the last days, a leader with huge influence but carrying dangerous deception. 2 Thessalonians 2-9 says, "He comes with the power of Satan, with all kinds of power, signs, and lying wonders." Many believe this person will play a key role in the final events, bringing chaos to both politics and faith. Still, right in the middle of all those frightening pictures, the Bible stresses one thing that never changes. Everything stays under God's control. The wars, the alliances, and even the storms of history don't go outside His plan. Isaiah 46-10 makes it plain. "I declare the end from the beginning. My purpose will stand, and I will do all that I please." So, when we look at the conflicts happening around the world today, many people start asking a big question. Are these just regular political troubles? Or are they slowly fitting together into the prophetic picture the Bible described thousands of years ago? And if those pieces are really coming together bit by bit, then the scariest question might not be what happens to Israel, but what happens to the whole world when those prophecies reach their final stage. After everything we have just seen, the picture begins to become clearer. From ancient prophecies to the events unfolding today, the Bible has always described that Israel would pass through many great trials. But the story does not end in chaos. In the end, it points to restoration and peace. Amos 9:15 says, "I will plant them in their land, and they will never again be uprooted from the land I have given them, says the Lord your God." This promise shows that even after many upheavals, the final future still moves towards stability and hope. The Bible does not stop with the survival of one nation. It also paints a much larger vision, one where the last wars give way to peace. Isaiah 2-4 describes that picture with very well-known words. "They will beat their swords into plowshares and their spears into pruning hooks. Nation will not lift up sword against nation, neither will they learn war anymore." This is not only a prophecy about Israel, but also a hope for all humanity, about a day when violence no longer rules the world. But the Bible is not only speaking about the future of nations, it also speaks about the future of every person. Romans 15:4 reminds us, "For everything that was written in the past was written to teach us, so that through the patience and comfort of the Scriptures we might hold on to hope." So, if these prophecies make you pause and think, perhaps the most important thing is not trying to predict history, but taking time to discover the message of the Bible for yourself. If you feel this topic is worth reflecting on, please leave a prayer or a thought in the comments below. You can also share this video with friends. Press like if you believe the prophecies of the Bible are still speaking to the world today, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you won't miss the next parts in this series exploring these mysterious prophecies. Thank you for taking the time to watch. May God give peace to you and your family and keep you in every situation of life. Amen.
Oh, mommy. Oh, mommy. Lighten up now.
Have you ever looked up at the sky and wondered what's really going on with this world? In recent years, the sky keeps showing signs that make millions of people stop and stare upward. In Greenland, a sound like a trumpet suddenly echoed across the icy landscape. In Mexico, strange noises came from high above, startling the whole town into looking up. In Romania, a bright green swirling ring appeared among the clouds. Over the ocean near Miami, a long streak of light shot down from the sky. In Canada, the sun turned a deep red. In Texas, the sky showed a slash of bright light, and in Sweden, a huge ring of light surrounded the sun. And that's not even all of it. What do you think these signs are trying to tell us? If you have faith, leave a prayer in the comments below, because as these signs keep showing up, maybe it's time we start paying attention. And now, so you don't have to wait long, let's get right to it. 1. A strange trumpet sound from the sky pierced through Greenland. A strange trumpet sound suddenly came from the sky over Greenland. It broke the quiet of that huge icy land, more than 836,000 square miles, and left the people there frozen in silence. The noise went on for a while, echoing far across the white snow and ice walls, like a giant horn blowing from somewhere invisible. In that moment, it hit us that the sky we thought was always peaceful wasn't so quiet anymore. Greenland is one of the emptiest places on Earth, where cold winds blow across endless ice fields that stretch to the horizon. But that day, the silence got shattered by a deep, long sound, like a ship's foghorn cutting through thick mist. Tourists who recorded it said the noise lasted several minutes. It bounced off the ice layers and spread out across the gray sky. No one could find where it came from, and that made the whole thing stick in everyone's mind. Similar reports have popped up in other parts of the world since 2008. People often call it the hum. Sites like strangesounds.org have tracked these deep, drawn-out sounds that carry through the air. Scientists think some might come from frostquakes, when water in the ground freezes fast and causes shaking. But in a lot of cases, the sound is more like a long trumpet blast than ice cracking. Revelation 8-6 says, "The 7 angels who had the 7 trumpets prepared to sound them." When folks read that now, it's hard not to notice how those Bible trumpets match up with these sudden sky sounds we're hearing today. In the scriptures, trumpet blasts always come before big changes in the world. People who heard it described the sound like a huge foghorn blowing from way up high. It didn't come from the ground, and it wasn't like any machine or vehicle. The noise stretched out, then slowly faded into the cold air, leaving everyone just staring up at the sky in quiet. That moment got a lot of people wondering if we're seeing signs that used to only show up in old books. Revelation 11:15 says, "The 7th angel sounded his trumpet, and there were loud voices in heaven, which said, 'The kingdom of the world has become the kingdom of our Lord and of his Messiah.'" In the Bible, a trumpet isn't just noise. It's a signal for a major turning point in human history. Sure, some USGS geologists say these sounds could come from moving ice or pressure changes underground. That explanation might cover part of it. But for many who heard it ring out from the sky themselves, it felt very different, more like a trumpet call from above than a crack below the surface. 1 Corinthians 15:52 says, "In a flash, in the twinkling of an eye, at the last trumpet. For the trumpet will sound, the dead will be raised imperishable." That verse points to a moment when the trumpet signals a whole new beginning. Even if the sounds over Greenland's icy sky are just natural events, they still remind us strongly that this world isn't as calm as we once thought. But if they're real warnings, what we just heard might be only the first trumpet. And if one trumpet has already sounded over Greenland's frozen sky, could others be getting ready to blow in different places around the world, waking people up before it's too late? 2. Eerie whispers from the sky shake a small Mexican town. Right after dark settled over a little town in Mexico, the sky suddenly started making these weird sounds, like a bunch of voices whispering all at once from way up high. The noise wasn't coming from houses or the streets. It was right out of the night sky. In just a few minutes, folks all over the neighborhood stepped outside, stood still, and looked up at the darkness above. This town is used to quiet evenings. Narrow roads, a few yellow streetlights, and a big open sky overhead. But that night, the peace got broken when those whispering-like sounds spread through the air. People said the noise went up and down, like distant voices echoing across the sky and bouncing between the buildings. Joel 2:30 says, "I will show wonders in the heavens and on the earth, blood, fire, and columns of smoke." When folks read that, a lot of them started thinking about how the Bible talks so many times about signs up in the sky before big things happen in the world. Some people grabbed their phones and recorded it. In the videos going around online, the night sky looks totally normal, but you can hear these deep rumblings or long, drawn-out whispers. Similar recordings have popped up in Mexico before with what's called sky trumpets, where the sky makes strange noises like horns or echoes from nowhere. People have reported the same kind of thing in Terrace, British Columbia. A few folks on Reddit talked about hearing almost the exact same thing. A big, drawn-out whisper that slowly faded away. No planes, no thunder, no obvious source. Acts 2:19 says, "I will show wonders in the heavens above and signs on the earth below, blood, fire, and columns of smoke." Those words were written long before phones or the internet, but they mention signs in the sky that make people stop and pay attention. Some researchers think these sounds might be spherics, electromagnetic signals from lightning up in the atmosphere that NASA has studied. Others say maybe echoes from far-off factories. But for the people who actually heard it right overhead, it felt totally different. In that moment, you can see why they just stared up in quiet wonder. Matthew 24:30 says, "Then the sign of the Son of Man will appear in the sky, and all the peoples of the earth will mourn. They will see the Son of Man coming on the clouds of heaven with power and great glory." In the Bible, the sky isn't just empty space. It's where signs can show up before major changes in the world. That night, the sounds finally stopped. The sky went quiet again, and the little town got back to its normal routine. But for those who stood under it, the memory of those whispers lingers, like something still unexplained. Maybe these noises are just natural things science hasn't fully figured out yet. Or maybe they're a gentle nudge from the sky, reminding us the world isn't as simple as we think. And if those whispers were just the beginning, what happens when the sky stops whispering and starts sending bigger signs? 3. Mysterious blue gate in the sky over Romania. The sky suddenly opened up with a glowing blue door right in front of hundreds of people. No big boom, no warning, just a swirling cloud hanging there in the middle of the air, then bursting with strange light. If you'd been standing under that sky at that moment, what would you have thought you were seeing? It happened in a rural area of Romania. Folks were just going about their day when all of a sudden a round cloud appeared overhead. It was turning slowly, like a gate swinging open. Greenish blue light came from the center and spread out through the surrounding clouds. The cloud didn't drift with the wind. It just stayed suspended, as if an entrance had opened right in the middle of the sky. Revelation 4:1 says, "After this I looked, and there before me was a door standing open in heaven. And the voice I had first heard speaking to me like a trumpet said, 'Come up here, and I will show you what must take place after this.'" When a lot of people looked up at the Romanian sky that day, what they saw matched that description of a door opening in the heavens almost exactly. Some witnesses said the swirling light changed shape over a few minutes. At first it looked like a circle, then it stretched into a spiral and slowly faded away. No planes flew by, no storm was around. Just a few minutes later, the whole thing was gone, leaving the sky completely clear, like nothing had ever happened. Psalm 78:23 says, "Yet he gave a command to the skies above and opened the doors of the heavens." In the Bible, clouds often show up as a curtain between our world and God's power. And when that curtain opens, it usually marks something important. Scientists quickly came up with explanations. Some said it might have been lenticular clouds, those lens-shaped ones that often form near mountains. Others linked it to green spirals, sometimes seen after rocket launches, when frozen fuel creates glowing spirals in the atmosphere. But those explanations still leave a big question. Why did it look so much like a gate opening? And why did the light come straight from the center of the cloud circle, like a pathway going right through the sky? Mark 13:26 says, "At that time, people will see the Son of Man coming in clouds with great power and glory." In many parts of the Bible, clouds aren't just weather. They're a sign that something greater is about to appear. Science may keep looking for answers, but for many who saw it in Romania, that moment felt like the sky had cracked open a door for just a few short minutes. And the question still hangs there. If a real gate opened in the sky, what might come through from the other side? 4. The trumpet sound from the sky with rolling clouds. The sky went dark in just a few minutes. Thick layers of clouds started swirling like a storm was forming, even though the weather had been fine before. Then, suddenly, a sound came from high above. It wasn't thunder, and it wasn't an airplane. It went on and on, strong and shaking, like a huge trumpet being blown right through the sky. Lots of videos recorded in different places around the world show the same thing. Black clouds gathering, flashes of light behind the clouds, and then that deep sound spreading everywhere. The trumpet sound didn't just blast once. It came in waves, low and deep, then rising higher, leaving many people standing still, staring up at the sky, not knowing what was happening. Revelation 8-7 says, "The first angel sounded his trumpet, and there came hail and fire mixed with blood, hurled down on the earth. A third of the earth was burned up, a third of the trees were burned up, and all the green grass was burned up." In the Bible, a trumpet sound isn't just noise. It's a signal that big changes are starting. Some witnesses said that when the sound came, the clouds right above them spun hard, like they were being pulled into an invisible point. Lightning flashed between the thick layers, even though no big storm was forecast. That moment made a lot of people wonder, if it's not thunder, then what could make a sound like a giant trumpet? Revelation 9-1 says, "The fifth angel sounded his trumpet, and I saw a star that had fallen from the sky to the earth. The star was given the key to the shaft of the abyss." In many parts of the Bible, each trumpet blast marks a major event being opened up on the earth. Scientists have come up with a few ideas. Some say it could be a sonic boom from a supersonic plane, or the sound of a meteor streaking through the atmosphere. Those explanations are based on things in physics that we can measure, but they only tell how the sound might happen. They don't touch the deeper feeling many people had in that moment. 1 Thessalonians 4:16 says, "For the Lord himself will come down from heaven with a loud command, with the voice of the archangel, and with the trumpet call of God, and the dead in Christ will rise first." In the Bible, the trumpet is always tied to the moment when God steps in powerfully in human history. Those strange sounds might last only a few dozen seconds, but when they rang out across a sky full of rolling clouds, many people clearly felt they had just heard a warning. Not a warning from people, but from something much bigger getting ready to happen. And if one day that trumpet sounds all over the world at the same time, are you ready? 5. Green energy gate forms a perfect circle from the clouds. The sky suddenly lit up. A strong beam of green light shot through the thick clouds, and in just a few short seconds, it formed a perfect circle hanging in the air. A lot of folks froze in place watching it, because it looked exactly like a huge gate opening right in the middle of the sky. If you'd seen that moment with your own eyes, you'd wonder if it was just a natural thing or something else. It started out as just a regular cloud, but then the center part suddenly pulled apart, revealing a clear round shape edged with soft green light. The circle wasn't twisted or messy like clouds torn by wind. It was almost perfect, like an energy gate floating up there in the sky. Ezekiel 1-4 says, "I looked, and there was a whirlwind coming out of the north, a great cloud with flashing fire and bright light all around it. And from the middle of the fire came something like shining metal. That picture of a glowing cloud from that ancient vision makes a lot of people think of this mysterious ring of light when they see it in the sky. Videos spreading online show the same thing happening in different places. A giant circle opens up in the clouds with light shining straight through like the sky just got punched open. For a few short minutes, the circle hangs there, glowing softly, then slowly fades away like it was never there. Weather experts explain it might be a hole punch cloud, something that happens when super cold water droplets in the cloud freeze all at once, leaving a perfect round hole. But even though that sounds reasonable, plenty of people still wonder, why would a weather event look so much like a strange gate? Psalm 19:1 says, "The heavens declare the glory of God. The skies proclaim the work of his hands." All through history, the sky has often been seen as a place where signs appear, things beyond what people can fully understand. Some people who saw it said that when the light circle showed up, the sky around it got unusually quiet. The wind died down, the air felt heavy, like nature was holding its breath for something bigger. Revelation 21:21 says, "The 12 gates were 12 pearls, each gate made of a single pearl, and the street of the city was pure gold, like clear glass." Those descriptions of gates in heaven in the Bible make many folks believe the sky isn't just empty space. It could be the boundary to things beyond this world. Science will probably keep explaining this as an atmospheric process. But when a perfect ring of light opens up in the clouds, a lot of people feel like they've just seen a sign, a signal that the sky is getting ready for some big change. And if one day those circles start showing up more and more, are we stepping into a new era or getting closer to an event the world isn't ready for? 6. Mystery of the light falling from the sky over the Miami Ocean. A long streak of light suddenly shot down from the night sky and crossed the horizon over the Miami Ocean. It didn't flash on and off like an airplane, and it didn't vanish right away like a regular shooting star. It stayed bright for a while, glowing steadily, then slowly dropped toward the dark water. People standing on the Florida beach just froze, staring out at the ocean trying to figure out what they'd just seen. Miami is famous for its long beaches stretching almost 35 miles along the Atlantic coast, where folks come to relax and watch the sunset. But in that moment, the peaceful scene changed in an instant. Against the dark sky, a shining trail appeared, with a long, fiery tail, like something punching through the atmosphere. Luke 21:25 says, "There will be signs in the sun, moon, and stars. On the earth, nations will be in anguish because of the roaring sea and waves." When signs like this show up in the sky, a lot of people believe the Bible talked about moments just like this thousands of years ago. The videos people recorded show the light streak falling almost silently. No big boom, no crash sound, just the light stretching out and then fading as it neared the horizon. Some folks said it looked like a meteor burning up as it hit the ocean, but others thought its movement was too slow and too steady to be just a piece of space rock. Matthew 24:27 says, "For as lightning that comes from the east is visible even in the west, so will be the coming of the Son of Man." The sudden flash of light across the sky made many people wonder if these signs are really just random coincidences. Scientists have offered a few explanations. Some think it was a meteor entering the atmosphere. Others say it could be debris from a spacecraft or satellite coming back to Earth. In recent years, we've seen similar things when old rocket stages or satellites re-enter and burn up. But for the people who saw it with their own eyes, it's not that simple. They say the light didn't just fall, it seemed to slide across the sky, almost like a star moving with purpose. Revelation 8:10 says, "The third angel sounded his trumpet, and a great star, blazing like a torch, fell from the sky on a third of the rivers and on the springs of water." Those ancient words make a lot of people stop and think when they see a light like that dropping into the ocean at night. Whether it was a meteor, space junk, or something else, this event leaves a big question hanging. When a streak of light falls from the sky into the wide ocean, it's not just a rare sight. It makes people lift their heads and wonder about their place between heaven and earth. And if one day we start seeing more and more lights like that in the sky, are they just lifeless objects falling from space? Or are they signs reminding us that something much bigger is drawing closer? 7. A blazing red sun like it came from another planet in Canada. The sun changed color. Not yellow, not orange. It was a deep, glowing red like hot coals. Canada's sky suddenly got covered in thick haze. The light filtered through the smoke and turned the whole horizon a dark red. Lots of people stopped right in the middle of the street, looked up. Have you ever seen the sun that red in the middle of the day? Canada stretches over 3.85 million square miles, with huge forests running from east to west. In summer, big wildfires often break out, especially in Alberta. When the wind carries the smoke hundreds of miles, the sky starts to change color. But in this event, the smoke was so thick that the sun looked like a red ball just hanging there in the haze. Joel 2:31 says, "The sun will be turned to darkness and the moon to blood before the coming of the great and dreadful day of the Lord." When the sky changed color and the light turned deep red, a lot of folks didn't just think about a natural thing. They remembered those prophecies written thousands of years ago. For hours, that red sun just hung in the sky. The light got weaker, tree shadows stretched long, and the air turned hazy. Pictures taken from different cities showed the same thing. A blood-red sun standing out against a gray, murky sky. Some called it a rare sight from nature. Others said it looked like a sign. Acts 2:20 says, "The sun will be turned to darkness and the moon to blood before the coming of the great and glorious day of the Lord." As images from Canada spread online, that Bible verse came up right away. Plenty of people started wondering if what was happening in the sky was really just a normal thing. Scientists gave a clear explanation. They said, smoke particles from the wildfires rise high in the atmosphere and scatter the light. The blue light gets blocked, but the red light comes through, so the sun looks much redder than usual. This has happened before, especially during big wildfire seasons. Still, even with the science, that sight left a lot of people quiet as they looked up. A red sun hanging in the middle of the day isn't something you see every day. Revelation 6:12 says, "The sun turned black like sackcloth made of goat hair. The whole moon turned blood red." Those old words made many people stop and think when they saw the red covering the sky. Whether it was wildfire smoke or some atmospheric thing, this event sent a strong reminder. When nature changes the color of the sky, people quickly feel that this world is more fragile than we think. And if one day that red sun doesn't just show up in a small part of Canada, but spreads across the whole world's sky, is it only smoke and light? Or a sign that a major chapter in human history is about to begin? 8. Strange crack in the sky over Austin, Texas. The sky looked like it got torn in half. On a regular afternoon in Austin, Texas, a long, bright line suddenly showed up and stretched straight across the blue sky, just like a giant crack opening up in the middle of nowhere. Not clouds, not a plane, just a sharp line of light slicing right through the sky. If you were standing there right then, what would you think was happening? Austin is a lively city, covering about 271 square miles, where millions of folks are used to that big Texas sky. But for those few short minutes that day, the sky didn't feel peaceful anymore. A long streak of light appeared, just hanging there in the air, making it seem like the invisible curtain of the sky had been slit open. Lots of people grabbed their phones and started recording it. In the videos, the bright line shows up clear as day, stretching out and completely separate from the clouds around it. No boom, no falling object, just this slash of light floating quietly in the sky, staying there for a few minutes before it slowly faded away. Revelation 6:14 says, "The sky rolled up like a scroll, and every mountain and island was moved from its place." When people saw that crack of light, A lot of them thought right away of this old prophecy about the sky being rolled up. Some weather experts say it might have been crepuscular rays, those beams of light breaking through clouds at just the right angle. Others think it could be the leftover trail from a meteor streaking through the atmosphere. But those explanations don't make the sight any less strange. Isaiah 24:19 says, "The earth is broken up, the earth is split open, the earth is violently shaken." Those words were written thousands of years ago. But seeing a picture of the sky looking cracked open over Austin, plenty of people started wondering if nature was trying to send some kind of message. What really got people's attention was the feeling it gave. Unlike a storm or a lightning bolt, that bright line didn't come with any sound. It just quietly appeared like a mark across the sky, then slowly disappeared. Psalm 60:2 says, "You have made the earth tremble. You have broken it. Heal its breaches, for it is shaking." When folks see the sky showing lines of light like cracks, verses like that come to mind again. Maybe it was just a rare light phenomenon. Maybe it was a meteor's trail passing by. But it could also be a reminder that the sky above us isn't as fixed and unchanging as we always thought. And if one day those cracks don't just show up for a few minutes and vanish, but start appearing more often and getting bigger, is the familiar sky we've always known really getting ready for some major change? 9. A ring of light around the sun in Sweden. The sun suddenly looked like it doubled in the sky. Up on the icy, snow-covered slopes of Sweden, a huge circle of light appeared out of nowhere around the sun, making it seem like there were several suns shining at once. Everyone skiing at the Vemdalen ski resort, an area about 10 square miles, stopped and looked up. If you had been standing there, what would you have thought you were seeing? In the freezing air of those northern European mountains, the light spread out into a perfect circle. Right in the center was the bright sun, but around it was this big, glowing ring, bright and almost perfectly even. From some angles, the way the light bent made it look like extra suns were appearing alongside it. People who were there at the ski area said the sight was beautiful, but also gave them chills. The ring didn't disappear right away. It hung in the sky for quite a while, floating among thin, crystal-like clouds. Some called it a stunning natural wonder, but others felt it was like some strange sign from the heavens. Joshua 10:12 says, "Sun, stand still over Gibeon, and moon in the valley of Ajalon." In Bible history, the sun wasn't just a star in the sky. It was sometimes a sign of power that could step in and change nature itself. Scientists explain that this is called a sun halo. It happens when sunlight passes through millions of tiny ice crystals floating high up in the clouds. Those crystals bend the light and form a perfect ring around the sun. Still, standing there in that endless white snow, the ring looked almost unreal. Psalm 19:4 says, "In them he has set a tabernacle for the sun." The picture of the sun placed in a tabernacle in the sky makes a lot of people think of this ring of light around the sun, like nature was painting the same scene that was described thousands of years ago. Photos taken at Vemdalen spread fast online. In the pictures, the light ring was so clear, it looked like a giant gateway hanging in the sky. The light bounced off the white snow below, giving the whole scene a magical, dreamlike glow. Isaiah 60:19 says, "The sun shall no longer be your light by day, nor for brightness shall the moon give light to you, but the Lord will be to you an everlasting light." Those words point to a light far beyond any natural light we know. Maybe that ring was just light bending through ice crystals in the clouds. But when nature creates something so perfect that people stop and really think about it, a lot of folks start looking at it not just with science, but with a sense of awe. And what if one day those rings of light didn't just show up at some far-off ski resort, but spread across skies all over the world? Would that be a sign that a much greater light is about to appear? 10. Strange lights flickering in the clouds over Austin, Texas. One quiet late night in Austin, Texas, the calm was suddenly broken by these strange lights flashing in the clouds. Not lightning, and not like airplane lights either. The beams would flash on, then vanish, only to pop up somewhere else, making the sky look like it was opening an invisible gate. If you'd been standing under that sky right then, would you have thought you were seeing a sign from above? Austin covers about 271 square miles and is usually pretty peaceful in the late hours. But that night, a lot of folks looked up when they spotted those odd flashing lights behind the cloud layers. There was no boom, no shaking of the air like thunder, just silent twinkling like mysterious signals being sent down from the heavens. Acts 2:19 says, "I will show wonders in the heavens above and signs on the earth below, blood and fire and clouds of smoke." This Bible verse talks about signs appearing in the sky, things that make people stop and think about what's coming soon. Some videos captured it, showing the lights constantly changing shape behind the clouds. Sometimes they formed long, hazy streaks. Other times, they looked like small, moving dots of light. The sight reminded many people of doors of light, as if the sky was revealing something on the other side. People watching came up with different ideas. Some thought it might be lights from satellites passing by, or maybe a rare aurora effect showing up this far south. But for those who saw it in person, what hit them hardest wasn't the cause of the lights, it was the strange feeling that came over them while watching. Matthew 24-29 says, "Immediately after the distress of those days, the sun will be darkened, and the moon will not give its light. The stars will fall from the sky, and the heavenly bodies will be shaken." Those words describe a time when the sky is no longer calm like it used to be. That night in Austin, the lights kept flickering in the clouds for several minutes before slowly fading away. No sound, no trace left behind. Just the people who saw them carrying away the sense that the sky had sent down a message. Revelation 21:23 says, "The city does not need the sun or the moon to shine on it, for the glory of God gives it light, and the Lamb is its lamp." In the Bible's final picture, light no longer comes from the usual heavenly bodies. It comes from a source far beyond everything. Those strange rays in the clouds might just be a rare natural event, but appearing right when so many are talking about signs in the sky, they make the question harder to ignore than ever. And if these lights aren't just a passing thing, but the final signal before the world moves into a completely different stage, then is humanity really ready to step up to the door of eternity? Here are 10 signs that have passed right in front of us, like 10 bells ringing across the sky, from strange lights and unusual movements to signs showing up at times no one expected. When you put them all together, the picture gets clearer. The sky isn't just changing, it's sending a message. And in the Bible, signs like these have never been seen as random. Luke 21:11 said it long ago. "There will be great earthquakes, famines, and pestilences in various places, and fearful events, and great signs from heaven." So, when we read that verse again, after seeing what's been happening, one thing stands out. What people are witnessing may not be coincidence. These could be signals turning on, one by one. From lights in the sky to movements that are hard to explain, everything fits together like pieces of a puzzle falling into place. What makes many people stop and think isn't just the signs themselves, but how often they happen and exactly when they appear. When so many signs come together in one period, a big question starts to rise. Could this be a warning? Acts 2:19 makes a strong statement. "I will show wonders in the heavens above and signs on the earth below." This Bible verse isn't only about the past. It opens the possibility that what we're seeing right now may have been foretold long ago. And if that's true, every sign carries a reminder with it. The key isn't fear, it's waking up. Signs in the sky may make people curious, but the Bible always points us to a different response, turning back to faith. When the world feels more unpredictable, prayer becomes the safest and strongest place anyone can turn to. Matthew 24-42 puts it plainly. Therefore, keep watch, because you do not know on what day your Lord will come. This isn't meant to scare anyone. It's more like a gentle but firm call to stay alert, live with faith, and keep your heart turned toward the Lord every day. If you've watched this far, take just a moment to think. You might want to write a short prayer in the comments below, something for your family, for the future, or just a simple word of thanks. Even small prayers can be the most powerful things we send up to heaven. If this has given you something to think about, please give it a like, share the video, and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next messages. Every video here is made with the hope of helping more people see the bigger picture and understand better what's going on around us. Finally, thank you so much for staying with me until the end. May the Lord bless you and your family, keep everyone in His peace, and guide each step on the road ahead. Revelation 22:12 says, "Behold, I am coming soon. My reward is with me, and I will give to each person according to what they have done." May the peace of the Lord be with you today and always. Amen.
All of you here, Peter. Secretary Hegseth essentially dismissing questions about a law.
A leader, they end up dead, and it's an amazing
production amid fears of diminishing stockpiles. But that is a fear that today.
Rafael Grossi, the Director General of the International Atomic Energy Agency. It's good to have
production because of drone attacks on some of those facilities in Saudi Arabia. Aramco
Want them to ramp that up to 1,000 a year. Jesse.
Oh, that's
What would happen if the next fire in the sky isn't just a warning anymore, but the start of a war we can't turn back from? Early in the morning, on March 2, 2026, the sky over Natanz lit up. Missiles came screaming down, the ground shook, and the entrance to the nuclear facility got torn wide open. Reports say there was no radiation leak, but the whole world is still holding its breath. A strike like that doesn't just shake Iran, it shakes the future of all of us. Thousands of years ago, a verse in the book of Ezekiel said, "I will rain fire down on Magog and the distant coastlands." When you read those words today, a lot of folks can't help but get chills. Fire from the sky missiles, explosions with terrifying power. Could what we're seeing right now have been talked about so long ago? Do you think this is just a coincidence, or is it a warning that's getting clearer every day? Do you feel like the world is rushing toward a dangerous turning point? If you believe God is still watching over everything and in control, drop a prayer in the comments below, okay? Amen. Now, come along with me as we dig deeper into the truth about those ancient prophecies concerning Iran in a nuclear war. But first, we need to know Iran's current situation in the escalating conflict with Israel and the US. On the 2nd of March 2026, heavy airstrikes hit Iran's Natanz nuclear site, destroying several buildings and shaking up the whole central area of the country's uranium enrichment program. Satellite pictures show the underground tunnel entrances collapsed and many structures leveled. In the middle of all this, that verse from Ezekiel 39:6 comes through strong. "I will send fire on Magog and on those who live in safety in the coastlands. Then they will know that I am the Lord." The fires coming from the sky today make it really hard to ignore the amazing match between those ancient words and what's happening right now. According to early March 2026 updates from the International Atomic Energy Agency, Iran has about 880 to 970 pounds of uranium enriched to 60%. That's just a short step from the 90% needed for nuclear weapons. This number has the world especially worried, because if they speed up enrichment, that amount could make several nuclear warheads. Most of the uranium is stored at the metal processing site in Isfahan, while places like Natanz and Fordo keep running enrichment work even after taking heavy hits from recent attacks. All this brings to mind the prophecy in Daniel 11:2. "Behold, 3 more kings will arise in Persia, but when he becomes strong through his riches and us, he will stir up everyone against Greece. In today's world, where technology and key resources can build national power, many Bible scholars think the riches here might point to Iran's strategic resources and critical technology. Natanz has long been the heart of Iran's uranium enrichment program. Thousands of advanced centrifuges there spin up to 100,000 times a minute, separating uranium isotopes to make uranium hexafluoride, the main fuel for the nuclear cycle. The attack on March 2 destroyed at least 3 buildings and badly damaged the underground systems. Even though the IAEA says there's no immediate radiation leak, the site can't run at full capacity right now. Besides Natanz, another place getting a lot of attention is Fordow, the uranium enrichment facility built deep inside a mountain near Qom. Designed to withstand air attacks, Fordow has been suspected by the West for years as a spot where Iran could keep enriching uranium to high levels. Recent reports show work is still going on there, but international monitoring is limited after Iran cut back access for IAEA inspectors. In light of that, some observers connect today's events to Ezekiel 38:5. Persia, Cush, and Put are with them, all of them with shield and helmet. Persia is the old name for Iran, and seeing this nation in those ancient prophecies makes many people wonder about the Middle East's role in big moments of human history. Beyond the enrichment sites, other locations are in the international spotlight too. Parkin, once suspected of nuclear explosion research, and Minzadehe, tied to weaponization work, were targeted with bunker-busting bombs in recent strikes. These attacks aim to weaken Iran's ability to develop nuclear tech and weapons. Along with the nuclear program, Iran keeps a big stockpile of ballistic missiles. Systems like Shahab-3 and Sejil can reach about 1,240 miles, covering much of the Middle East. Recent attacks are believed to have hit missile storage at Imam Ali near Khorramabad and Bid Ghaneh near Tehran to cut down Iran's ability to launch if the conflict gets worse. Fox News reports that many U.S. officials believe Iran's nuclear program is very close to being able to build weapons, even though international agencies haven't confirmed a full nuclear weapons program exists. These events make some think of the haunting picture in Revelation 9:18. A third of mankind was killed by these 3 plagues, by the fire, smoke, and sulfur that came out of their mouths. In the age of nuclear tech, the fire and smoke can remind Bible readers of the destructive power of modern weapons. Still, the IAEA reports stress they haven't found proof of a structured nuclear weapons program in Iran. That shows the picture right now has many layers, with technology, politics, and global security all mixed up in a crisis that's hard to predict. From a faith viewpoint, many believe these changes aren't just random chaos out of control. The old prophecies seem to remind us that human history follows a bigger plan. As geopolitical events keep unfolding and Iran's nuclear program stays at the center of worldwide tension, one big question hangs in the air. Where will things go next? And what do those ancient warnings really mean for understanding today's troubles? Fire from the sky, and God's warning about Iran. An old prophecy is echoing back in this age of missiles and nukes. Thousands of years ago, a mysterious image was written down in the Bible. Fire from heaven, coming down on nations, burning up distant lands. Reading those lines today, with tensions in the Middle East heating up more and more, lots of folks are starting to see that those ancient warnings seem to mirror exactly what's happening in the world right now. In Ezekiel 39:6, the prophecy is laid out plain. I will send fire on Magog and on those who live in safety in the coastlands, and they will know that I am the Lord. The picture of fire from heaven in ancient times got understood in different ways, but in this era of ballistic missiles, bunker-busting bombs, and nuclear tech, many Bible scholars think this description carries an amazing meaning. Big explosions from up high, columns of smoke rising from the ground, and destruction spreading across the area. All of it makes the image in Ezekiel feel more alive than ever. Especially, this prophecy mentions Magog, an entity that Bible interpreters often link to powerful alliances up north. In modern studies, many folks believe this image could reflect geopolitical blocs forming around the Middle East and Eurasia.